Hello and welcome to Dead of Night Halloween production, Modular Mausoleum Part 2, Window Frame and Window Trim. Materials needed will be 1 sheet of 1/4 inch polystyrene foam, 1 sheet of 1 inch polystyrene foam, a spray water gun, a heat gun, a utility knife, a liquid nail with caulk gun, and a heat knife. Alright everyone, welcome back to Dead of Night Halloween Productions, Modular Mausoleum Part 2 of the tutorial. Today we're going to show you how to do the brick trim work around the window and how to build the window frame. As you can see right here, here's one of the finished pictures of what we're going to be building today. We have a cross section in between with the framework. We have the bricks going around, a little bit of the mortar work done. We're going to show you how to do all of this. So let's get started. So here we have a little block of polystyrene foam, and I'm going to show you how to carve this to make it look like the rock and brick that we're going to need to frame our window. I had already pre-cut all those bricks and started weathering them before I decided to make this tutorial, so I wanted to make sure that I showed you how to do this on this type of foam because this is going to work different than open cell foam. Obviously, this is much more dense, it's a heavier material, and it makes it a little bit different to carve in. As where with the open cell foam, you may want to use the hot knife to cut through this stuff. You can use a hot knife on polystyrene, but you don't necessarily need to. A regular knife or an X-Acto blade will actually kind of help you weather this up pretty good, and then we'll hit it with the heat gun and the water just like we did with the other ones. So let's get started with that. Okay, so here I'm going to show you a little example of what we did. With this piece, what I've done here is you take a utility knife and you can just rub this across these edges and really rough that up to give it a beveled edge. You know, we can do it right down here to show you some details. Sorry about the shaky camera. I'm trying to hold the camera while doing this. You can see it starts to rough up those edges, but this is good for the brick. If you want the stone, I can show you. I used a fine grit sandpaper right here and kind of sanded this down. You can take it and that'll make it look like more rounded edges. This is going to give you more of a stone look. We want more of a cracked brick look, so you may sand a little bit down here, but mostly we want to leave those rough edges the way they are. You can take your knife and really start to gouge out areas to make it look like the brick is falling apart, you know. Sand it down a little bit, even these out. Get it to your liking, make it look like there are big chips coming out. And then basically, once you've done that to all sides, you hit this with the water and the heat gun like we showed you in part 1, and that's going to give it the weathering and cracking that we need to make it look like brick. Now, once you have that done, you want to make sure that you get all the sides. You can see right here, I've taken the heat gun, I've hit all the sides because we're going to see this from the back. The only side that you're going to leave alone is the back, so that way it'll actually glue and get a good grip on the foam backing. But all the other sides we're going to hit, and we're going to make them look weathered on all sides, so it doesn't matter where you look at this from, you're going to see that going on. As you can see right through here, I haven't hit this with the heat gun yet. I'm going to have to do these sides and get these scarred up a little bit more. So basically that's how we did the brick trim pieces. It's really easy to do. It doesn't take long at all. You just get those done, glue them on, and space them out, and then you will have a brick frame for your window. Alright, so for carving the window, I've already carved out the frame and everything right here. I've got it marked where I want this to go, and I've numbered where I want my bricks to go as the trim pieces. Now over here you can see I have all of my trim piece bricks with the corresponding number, so I know where they go around the frame. I've already rearranged them and put them all in different orders to see which one I like the most. On the front you can see the chiseling and everything around these bricks is using the same method that I used to carve the actual brick walls. So I cut these into 2-inch by 3-inch squares and then just messed them up to make them look like weathered brick, but it's using the same process, so you can just do that over and over again. I like to do the brick pieces around the wall, so what we're going to, or around for the trim, because it makes it look like it's kind of old and decrepit, like they use the bricks as the decal pieces. There's also going to be stone on here, but this is what we're going to start out with first. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some liquid nail, just using a regular glue gun. Take some liquid nail and we're going to put it all around these areas and get the window framed in. Alright, so I got all my bricks laid out in the pattern that I want. I got them all glued down. Now the glue is still wet, which is why we're doing this process all in one take, so that way we can get this done. What I've done here is to kind of fill this in and to give us some some mortar in between the bricks is I'm spraying liquid glue here in between the cracks of everything that we do here. And then all you really do is you take the bricks while the glue is still wet, and you kind of shift them together and then pull them apart again. And that's going to make them kind of join together. This is going to make this all one solid unit, and it's going to make it look like there's some mortar in between these bricks that's old and cracking and starting to get all messed up. Now, if it's looking a little bit too much like peanut butter and everything, like right in there, you can take a little piece of wood and kind of just smear it around and smooth it out. Smooth it up against the bricks. This is going to add more stability to the frame, make this more one solid piece, and then you can get it to where, you know, it's starting to really fill in. Once we hit this with paint, that's going to look real good. So here's the finished product for the roughing in of our window frame. You can see that we've gnarlied up these bricks pretty good using the same technique we showed you in episode 1. Basically just the spray bottle and hitting them with the heat gun. With the polystyrene foam, you can get a little bit closer with a knife and actually start chiseling pieces of this out, and that's how we did the edges, just like we showed you earlier. What you're going to want to do though is when you glue these on, as you can see, we use the same process as the foam wall tutorial to weather this up and everything, but when you carve out your bricks, you want it to have kind of some continuity with your weathering. So if the bricks are breaking off on these edges, then chances are it's weathering on the bricks above them too. So as you can see, like right here, I started where everything's chipped off and everything. I made sure that pattern followed up with our bricks. Make sure you do this all the way around and kind of make it look like it's all one piece instead of stuff that you glue together. This way it adds a little bit of continuity and it'll really start to sell your final product. Alright, so next thing we want to do here is to actually build a frame that's going to go inside here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of 1/4 inch polystyrene foam that we have right here. This was a piece I was going to use for the door. You can see it's got some stuff drilled out on it. I didn't really like how it turned out, so I'm going to repurpose this. We're going to turn this over and we're going to use this side for some stuff. It's already got a kind of a beat look to it. We got some plastic here that we still need to remove. Removing plastic from beat up polystyrene sucks. Everything sticks into all these little crevices and everything. It doesn't come off as easy as open cell. So if you're using brand new polystyrene, it'll be a cakewalk. I'm using stuff that I've had here for a few years, so it's a little bit tougher to work with. But, you know, what can you do? So I'm going to show you how to cut this out and frame that in, and then we'll be ready to put in our piece of plexiglass. So what I've done here is I've taken my piece of polystyrene foam and I've drawn my window frame on there with my cross in the middle. The outside frame is 1.5 inches wide and the inside cross is 1 inch wide for the crossbars. I put X's in the squares that I need to cut out, and once I get these done, it's going to be ready to fit into the actual framework that we built on the brick wall. You want to be a little bit careful with this. One, it's going to leave some hard edges, which we're going to have to sand down either with a knife or with some fine grit sandpaper to make it look a little bit more beveled and to make it look a little bit more like old wood. Second of all, once you do this, it's going to be very brittle. It's going to be easy to break, so you really got to watch out. So here's the finished frame. As you can see right here, had a little problem. This cracked a little bit. I'm going to have to fix that. But we got it all done and everything. I'm going to have to fix some of these little holes right here. What I did was I went around with some sandpaper and roughed up these edges, put a little bit of a bevel on them. That way you don't have these hard edges. A weathered building doesn't have hard edges. They get watered down and broken down over time with rain and water, wind, everything hitting up against it. So you want to get rid of these hard edges. I'm going to hit this a little bit more, get these a little bit more smoothed up, a little bit more like that, get these sides, get this taken care of, rough it up a bit, and then this is going to look like a rough window frame that we can put in there, and ultimately it'll fit in right there like that and start to make this window frame really start to come to life. Okay, so we had to break off some edges on the side of the wall to get this frame to fit in there, but we finally got it. Here you can see we got the rounded edges done, everything's sanded down, it's looking pretty good. Up here we got some gaps right here that we're gonna have to fill in, probably put some tape up there and some monster mud, fill this in so where we can like lock this out and everything, but that won't be too big of a problem. You just have to kind of fill this in and then let some monster mud or stuff dry in there. I'll show you how to do that later, but right now that's about it. There is the finished window with frame, and we are about ready to fill that in and get ready for paint. So I was going to fill up these edges with Monster Mud, which is basically a mix of drywall compound and latex paint. However, I've been spending a lot of money on this, and I decided to do a little waste not want not. So instead of filling all the gaps and everything with Monster Mud, I've taken spare bits of foam and kind of filled in these edges here, as you can see. And then I'm going to go through this with liquid nail and fill all this in and glue this thing in, so that way it'll kind of look like caulk when it's done around here, you know. And fill this thing in so that way we don't have all those gaps. If you have any questions about the project or the video, feel free to email us at deadofnighthalloween@gmail.com. And please remember to subscribe to the Dead of Night Halloween production channel by clicking the link above.